Today, we're talking about how a single moment of encouragement from a friend became the spark that lit a dream I'd carried for 40 years. When I was a little girl, I made books. I'd write them out in my best cursive on little scraps of paper and then staple them together along one edge. I'd also walk across town to our local library, spend a couple of hours wandering the stacks. I refused to limit myself to just the kids section either. No, I wanted more than that. I wanted the books in the adult section. I was convinced that those shelves held the good stuff. Then, after making my careful selections, I would tote home a giant bag stuffed with 10 books. That was the maximum they'd allow me to borrow. I devoured every single one of them. And secretly, I thought, I want to be the person who writes these someday. That dream lived inside me for 40 years, alive but hushed. I'd tell myself the usual stories. Only important people write books, or you have to be really smart to write stories that people actually want to read. Fear is remarkably good at dressing itself up as practicality. Then I met Beth. Beth is a coworker of mine, a social worker actually, which feels appropriate given what came next. We clicked immediately, the way you do with certain people who seem to already understand you. One afternoon, I was telling her a story about a past relationship I'd been in. I wasn't thinking about writing or books or any of that. I was just talking, lost in the telling of it the way I sometimes get. When I finally came up for air, Beth looked at me and simply said, without fanfare, "There's your book." 3 words. She probably doesn't even remember saying them, but I have never forgotten. Something shifted in me that day. Not dramatically, not like a lightning bolt, more like a seed being pressed into soil. Beth had done what the best social workers do so naturally. She saw something in me that I couldn't quite see in myself, and she named it out loud. That's all. She didn't write a chapter for me or clear my schedule or solve the fear. She just held up a small mirror and said, "Look." Within a few months, I had begun drafting what would eventually become my debut novel, Dance of the Firefly. It tells the story of a young woman who finds the courage to escape a toxic relationship and who discovers herself 2 years later on the Appalachian Trail. The seeds of it came from my own life, but the story is very much a work of fiction meant to inspire women to find the courage already inside them. Now, as I take a break from editing the second book in that series, I keep coming back to Beth, to gratitude, to how astonishing it is that a single offhand comment spoken in the middle of an ordinary workday could quietly redirect the entire arc of someone's story. You don't have to move mountains. You just have to believe in someone and say so. I think a lot about this when I'm here on Substack. We're a community of writers and readers, dreamers and doers, and some of us are still carrying a quiet dream we haven't dared to speak aloud yet. Maybe that person just needs a Beth. Maybe they need you. Leave the comment, send the note, say the thing you're thinking when you finish reading someone's work. A few words, even a single sentence, it can plant something that grows for years in someone else's life. Be someone's Beth today. You might never know what you started. P.S. Dance of the Firefly is my debut novel, a story about courage, identity, and finding your way back to yourself. If you've ever doubted the light you carry, I'd love for you to read it. And if there is a Beth in your life who helped you find that light, maybe today is the day to thank them. Before we go, I want to leave you with this week's permission slip. permission to try something you've only ever dreamed about. You can find a digital copy of that ticket and all the links in the show notes. I'm Melissa Ann Palmer, and remember, your voice is the most authentic thing you own. I'll see you next time.